What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we've got another live fantasy football mock draft for you back on ESPN with a 10-team full PPR mock where we have the fifth overall pick right smack dab in the middle of it all. So should be pretty interesting. And before we get into it, a quick reminder, if you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at AllDayPigskin to continue interacting with us there. And let us hear it in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have? We will do our best to answer them all. What do you think of the squad, of these selections, etc.? And lastly, make sure to check out the 2022 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide, now available for purchase. Everything you could want at a great value. Top 150 overall rankings in standard and PPR formats, individual player bios, tiers, projections, along with general fantasy advice. All the details in the description. But with that being said, it is our turn to make a selection. The first four picks are in, so that's perfect timing. And I'll quickly run through the first four picks. They are Christian McCaffrey, Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp, and Najee Harris. And this is a pretty easy selection for me. I have Austin Eckler with the fifth overall pick on the board. That is where I am going in full PPR scoring. He is my third overall running back behind McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor. Now here, we got a little bit lucky because ESPN has Cooper Kupp ranked insanely high. And then somebody pulled the trigger on Najee Harris with the fourth pick in the first round. You know, I think that's really, really way too early. And if you're looking for Najee Harris to duplicate his efforts from last season, I think you're going to be disappointed. I don't think he's going to see the same pass catching work. And I surely don't think he's going to be like top three in that category. So to me, Austin Eckler is a much safer pick and somebody that I'd be perfectly fine in the top three picks. Hell, if you want to make the argument that you want to draft Eckler ahead of McCaffrey, even though I personally wouldn't, but maybe you're saying, okay, I'm worried about the injury concerns, so Eckler above McCaffrey, there's an argument to be made there. So the fact that we get him fifth overall here, great value. I don't like that Najee Harris selection. I also don't like the Cooper Kupp selection, but that's just me, understanding the value of running backs versus wide receivers. After Eckler, you see Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, so a run on wide receivers, then Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook with the ninth pick in the first round, tremendous value, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon then goes with the second pick in the second round, Tyreek Hill with the third pick in the second round, way too early, a huge run on pass catchers, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuel, Mike Evans, Joe Mixon sandwiched in between those guys. So now here we've got some interesting possibilities. We could go with the DeAndre Swift and then maybe, actually what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draft Aaron Jones first. I think he's a little bit safer than DeAndre Swift just because, in my opinion, I know that he's going to get the targets. And even though DeAndre Swift is somebody that I really, really like, I think there's going to be a little bit more fluctuation there. To me, Aaron Jones has maybe a little bit of a higher floor, just because I know after like Allen Lazard, it's Aaron Jones. So with DeAndre Swift, he's going to have Amon-Ra St. Brown, TJ Hawkinson, Jameson Williams. Who else? I'm probably forgetting somebody, but DJ Shark as well. So there's a lot of guys there that he has to contend with. Jared Goff also, I'd say not quite as a high upside passer as an Aaron Rodgers would be. So Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, that's a connection that I think is going to be absolutely sensational. So for that reason, I gave him the nod there. So immediately we have Eckler, Aaron Jones. DeAndre Swift went a little bit afterwards. Ooh, we get just sniped on Saquon Barkley. That was where I was going to go with my selection. So now we've got a decision to make. Do we go running back or do we go with a wide receiver? So at wide receiver, I don't necessarily love any of these guys. At tight end, we could go with a Mark Andrews. At running back, you guys know how I feel about Javonte Williams. I think he's a little bit too risky. And I've already got Austin Eckler and Aaron Jones. So, I don't necessarily have to go a running back here. One that I would have gone with would have been Saquon Barkley just because I think he's incredibly undervalued right now. I went with Mark Andrews ultimately, getting that hopefully wide receiver one production at the tight end position, getting that positional advantage in a 10-team league. There is something to be said about that, even though, Darren Waller and George Kittle, I feel like I kick myself about this all the time. When I go a Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews early on, those guys are going to be available in like the 5th or 6th round. Potentially that might be a stretch, but it's a 10-team league, so you never know. But at the end of the day, I can't get too upset about drafting Mark Andrews in the middle of the 3rd round. So, it could have been a lot worse. And look at the next couple of selections. This is why I kind of did it, because I knew the value for wide receiver wasn't quite there, at least in my opinion. The next group of picks were Nick Chubb, Javonte Williams, Cam Akers, David Montgomery, Ezekiel Elliott. So a huge run on running backs. Let's see if we missed anything crazy here in between our selections. So in between our Aaron Jones pick and our Mark Andrews pick, you saw CeeDee Lamb, DeAndre Swift, Leonard Fournette, Alvin Kamara, Travis Kelce, Keenan Allen, James Conner, and Saquon Barkley. So nothing too crazy there. Alvin Kamara maybe dropping a little bit because the concerns that he might get suspended, totally valid. So, that's something to keep an eye out for. And now we're back on the clock, though. So what do we do here? Do we go with No, we're going to go with a wide receiver. We're going wide receiver. We need to address the position. Guys that I really like, Michael Pittman still on the board. So let's go with him. Mike Williams is also somebody that I'm a big fan of, but I've already got Austin Eckler. So I usually, if I stack 2 guys from the same offense, it's going to be quarterback and a running back or quarterback and a wide receiver. Really don't like to go running back and a wide receiver, or like wide receiver from the same team. You're really investing in that offense. If they have an off week, I don't want to say that you're going to lose, but you're really putting yourself behind the 8 ball. So we went with Michael Pittman as our wide receiver one. We're going to load up on talent. We've got Mark Andrews. Let's see what happens with these wide receivers next. I was also looking at Travis Etienne potentially. Let's see where he ranks. So 53rd overall. I doubt he's going to make it to us if we, wait until the 6th round. And getting him as kind of our 3rd running back, having depth at that position, I think that's really valuable. Josh Jacobs still also available looking at this list. He's a good value at this point in time, even though I do have Travis Etienne ranked above him. Josh Jacobs in towards the end of the 5th round, something to be said about him, even though ESPN does have him ranked a little bit higher than I would like to see. So right now, if this board keeps up, Etienne would be our next pick. If Etienne gets sniped from us, I'm looking at Marquise Brown. Mike Williams, again, if I hadn't drafted Austin Eckler, I'd probably be going Mike Williams. So Marquise Brown, Allen Robinson, I continue just to take advantage of the ESPN rankings. And, because look at where Allen Robinson's ranked. He's ranked 78th overall behind a rookie in Drake London. Are you kidding me? That's an absolute joke. Behind Gabriel Davis, who had 35 catches last year. Folks, come on now. It's pretty simple. No need to overthink it. We're on the clock. We're going Travis Etienne here. I'm going to, address the more important position and I think get a trifecta of running backs that are absolutely stellar for this season. And then there's just some really good wide receiver depth. So I think we're going to be able to get a guy that we really like here in, the next couple of selections. So I feel good about that, unless, let's see what happens. I doubt we're going to, get a run on pretty much all the wide receivers that we love. So, guys that I would hope fall to me are Darnell Mooney or Marquise Brown. I mentioned Allen Robinson before. Hell, at that point in time, if Mike Williams is still there, he becomes a good value pick. So Hunter Renfrow now just went. DK Metcalf. I wouldn't be selecting Hunter Renfrow this early. It's the end of the 5th round. He's going to be behind Darren Waller, in my opinion, in that pass-catching group. And speaking of Darren Waller, let's see the tight ends that are still available. I kind of lost track. Yeah, see, this is what kills me. Again, I said it every single time. that I draft a Mark Andrews or a Travis Kelce early on. Darren Waller and George Kittle just went with the first and second pick, respectively, in the 6th round. Now, I will say I do think ESPN probably has them ranked a little bit lower than they should be. And maybe there's some recency bias there that, Waller was hurt, so you're a little bit scared off. And then George Kittle, I understand the George Kittle concerns, if it's Trey Lance as the quarterback all season long or majority of the year, then, his upside is going to go down. But I still think he's a top 5 guy. But either way, we're on the board now again. Mike Williams, Cordero Patterson, the Bills defense. So we've gotten to the point in time where, some of these people are on auto pick. And, basically you're seeing some defenses. And then, kicker is going to probably start going off the board. So we won't keep this too much longer. I think at this point in time, we're pretty close to getting our, bulk roster completed so we can give it a decent grade. Allen Robinson, you saw that I passed him up to get Marquise Brown. Again, this gamble might or might not pay off. I think it will, just because, we only have to wait, let's see, like 7 selections, and Allen Robinson is ranked pretty low here, again, 78th overall. I think there's going to be a run on quarterbacks, potentially, maybe some other tight ends selected. And again, there's a lot of other wide receivers ranked ahead of him. So people are going to fall into that trap of, okay, they're ranked ahead of him, probably should be drafted ahead of him. That's not always the case. That's why I always say take a look at your rankings in whatever platform you're drafting on ahead of time so you can potentially take advantage of it and, nab those guys at opportune times. So after our Marquise Brown pick, you saw Michael Thomas, Chris Godwin, Jalen Hurts, Amari Cooper, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown. So again, I don't know how you can have Amon-Ra St. Brown ahead of a Allen Robinson here. I'd argue so many of these wide receivers have no business being ranked ahead of Allen Robinson. Darnell Mooney will be interesting. He's got huge volume. The 2 Broncos and Judy and Cortland Sutton, you could argue they're going to be like Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf 2.0. It's just going to be so hard to pinpoint which one is which. So that'll be interesting. There goes Jerry Jeudy. I imagine this next pick won't be Allen Robinson. It'll be kind of funny if it is, but there's so many other great options. And Lamar Jackson just went off the board. I didn't even realize he was still available. Actually, I'm gonna get a little bit frisky here, and I'm gonna go Kyler Murray. I'm going to get that positional advantage at quarterback. Let's go. I've got Kyler Murray as a top-tier quarterback. I just drafted him in the 7th round, so I feel good about that. We've already got Marquise Brown. Pair him up with Kyler Murray, get that little stack. And then if we can get Allen Robinson in the 8th round, that's an absolute highway robbery. Probably won't here, but I did think at this point in time there were still some wide receivers that were really, really good that were left over. And hopefully we can, snag one of them. If not, it's okay. Just because, I was very tempted by Kyler Murray and his upside, passing and rushing the football. Yes, we could have waited and gotten like a Matthew Stafford and been completely fine. But it's a 10-team league. I'm going to shoot my shot here at the quarterback position. And I just drafted Kyler Murray in the 7th round. It's not like I drafted him in the 5th round or like the 4th round or something like that. So I do think there's something to be said about that as well. And I'm going to make one more selection here in the 8th round, and then we'll wrap this thing up because, as you can see, we've got our main roster already taken care of. Kyler Murray, quarterback, so a top 5 guy. As Austin Eckler, Aaron Jones, 2 studs in terms of PPR. Travis Etienne, somebody that I think it's going to break out this season. Wide receivers, Michael Pittman and Marquise Brown. We're going to add to that here in the 8th round. So we're going to have 3 solid wide receivers. Then Mark Andrews at the tight end position, very, very good there as well. So we're seeing that run on quarterbacks like I predicted. Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Tom Brady. So we're on the clock. And guess what? Our guy, Allen Robinson, who honestly, I think there's a very good chance he finishes higher than all the wide receivers we have up until this point, is still there. So I'm pulling the trigger, and this kind of concludes our roster. We shape it up here pretty nicely, I would say. And honestly, I'd give this roster a pretty high grade. I think B+, A-. So it's looking pretty good to me. I think it'll be a contender. So As always, though, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree? What are your thoughts on the squad? Along with any other questions you guys might have, we will do our best to answer them all. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe, and again, make sure to check out the 2022 ADP Fantasy Football Draft Guide, now available for purchase. Has everything you can want, details in the description. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys in future videos.